He had been the latest and most advanced of the home help, intelligent type robots ever built to date. But today was a special day. They were celebrating the production of their 400th robot, and the president and all the executives of the company were there to congratulate each other. The 400th robot was packed into a crate and put onto a boat to be sent off to his future home to serve and to please. When he arrived at his final destination, he was carefully lifted out of the box and switched on and prepared for work. All the people of the house were excited and happy to have the new guest, and were looking forward to seeing him manage the house with his unrivaled skills. The Trx5 was designed to be efficient in the field of managing household chores, but also to think in a human-like way. In the past, other robots had broken down due to their inability to react to unplanned situations. But the Trx5 had been programmed with the ability of initiative, just as humans do. He could make any room sparkle so clean that any human maid would have been ashamed of their own work. Every little bit of washing was cleaned, dried and folded in the most careful way. Cooking was also one of his traits, in being designed to prepare any meal to suit any taste. He was honestly the best in his class. There was no comparison in his skill and ability to perform in any given task. Quite frankly speaking, he was the best. But alas, with all man-made creations of their time, there comes a day when something bigger and seemingly better arrives. The robot was as usual on a normal day, going around the house, performing his regular duties and chores, when he was summoned by his master. Today I have something to tell you. Even though I never thought I would see the day, I unfortunately have to tell you that this will be your last day here, serving us as a robot. Please open up this cupboard and go inside. Here is your replacement. Even though Trx5 was told and programmed to feel human emotion and to respond that way, he was also designed to obey. Today you are officially made redundant by me, your master, and thus terminated from your service here and forevermore. Your replacement will continue your duties from now on. Please erase your memory and all recorded data and turn off your power supply. He obeyed as ordered, then everything went black. A few weeks later, someone from the corporation came to pick up the old Trx5 and drop him off at the nearest recycle center. But today it was closed, so he was dumped at the back of a line of old shops, like a piece of scrap with all the other robots of days gone by. He lay there for a week, in the cold and the rain, still and lifeless, lost and forlorn. After a few weeks, something strange happened. Even though his batteries had been drained of all energy and life, a surge of power came over him, and somehow his robot brain woke up. Oil-like tears, for some reason he didn't know, started to pour down his cheeks. He was alive again. He paused outside a shop window, which was a world of humans and newly released robots, serving their masters with purpose. He stayed a while, then he started off walking again. He walked out of the city and into places that were green and countrified. He kept walking and walking until he found a path that led uphill. He had never seen places so devoid of human life, so it was hard for him to think what he should do. But he kept on walking. He needed to walk. Eventually the path came to an end, and there was no sign of human activity anymore. All was calm and silent, apart from the occasional bird singing in the distance, high above in the trees. He still felt he should keep on walking, pushing through forest after forest, going steadily up and up. The forest slowly started to clear, and now there were rocks and wide open spaces, where skies stretched far above him, with misty clouds almost touching the tops of high mountain peaks. But he still kept on going, climbing with his metallic fingers that kept slipping on rocks, sometimes stumbling, falling over, rolling, but continuing to pick himself up and move on. After pausing for a while, he went down the other side of the slope, heading towards that mysterious quiet valley he had seen. It was tough work, even for the robot, as the rocks were bigger and the forest thicker. At the bottom of the mountain, he could hear a sound like rushing water. He pulled some branches aside to gain a better view, and there before him was the most beautiful river, with water crystal clear blue. Dark clouds appeared above him, and shortly it started to rain. He could hear the tap-tap of raindrops hitting the leaves above him as he stood silent under the natural roof above him. He walked on some more until he found a clearing in the trees. He decided to take a break to charge his batteries and ponder his next move. The rain had stopped, and it was getting darker now. Night eventually came, and all was dark. The robot was on standby mode when the first rays of light hit the side of his face and the morning dew shone like crystal beads. As he was getting ready to power up, he heard something strange, a noise, unfamiliar to his programmed ears, a sound non-human-like but alive. Something was there in the forest, looking at the robot. To his right, some animal he believed scrambling behind an old dead tree. Then behind that, another larger being, almost motionless. He'd been programmed to identify almost any living creature on the planet and realized that these were the near-extinct species called deer and squirrel. But there was also another creature, a wild boar he presumed, which was staring him in the eye from behind a bush, waiting in suspense. The animals themselves seemed very afraid, looking at the robot, shiny and unknown, and wondering what he was. The robot stood there in silence, the animals waiting for him to make a move, but he didn't. After a while, they became less afraid, and curiosity found its way into their minds. A thing such as a robot doesn't smell and also didn't move like any of the other humans they had once seen years before. An hour or so, the robot decided to speak, or at least try to communicate with the animals. He spoke a few words, but the animals ran back in fear upon hearing such strange, unknown sounds. Another hour or so later, they returned back, more interested than before. What was this thing? He drew closer to the animals, and after some time was able to get close enough to gain some of their trust. He noticed that these animals, who would normally live their own kind, were together, which was strange, but also noticed that the squirrel, deer, and wild boar had created a kind of bond with each other, maybe out of self-preservation, for having been abandoned or out of fate. He didn't know why, but they were companions, it seemed. He wondered as a robot what use he could be to these creatures. After a few hours or so, he looked to notice something peculiar. It appeared that the deer had an antler missing, his head on one side, and the wild boar had terribly painful-looking teeth that kept grinding, while the squirrel was afraid of climbing high places, and it never went up trees. He fought for a while. How could he gain their trust and friendship? He had an idea. He knew that humans needed praise and motivation to keep them going, not like robots. But maybe animals were the same. He had heard that deer were proud of their antlers and knew that it was a symbol of their strength and power. The robot desperately wanted to help, so fought for a while and came up with an idea that might work. He went over to the deer, picked up a branch of similar size to his only other antler, and proceeded to attach it to the stump of the old horn using old vines and mud and anything that he could find. This was difficult work, as the deer was afraid of what was going on and also afraid of being eaten or hurt. But after the work was completed, the deer began to feel a difference. The weight of his head was now balanced evenly, and he could feel better about himself. He felt whole again, like a strong, proud deer should. Next it was the squirrel's turn. The robot fought again. What could he do? He went over and fed it nuts, and this helped the squirrel to gain the trust of the robot. Slowly, the squirrel got used to the robot's friendly gestures, and the robot took to carrying it on its back to help it conquer its fear of high places. He climbed up high into the branches of trees and showed the squirrel the best places for food. And so in turn, the squirrel conquered its fear and could fend for itself, hunting for nuts. Lastly, it was the turn of the wild boar. He seemed to be in the most terrible pain, a tooth tusk rotting and in bad shape indeed. This was affecting the boar's ability to dig for food. Using his strong robot fingers, he grasped the animal round its belly and pulled out the rotten tooth. The animal was in pain for some time after, but eventually after a few days that went away and the boar became much, much happier. After a few days of being together, the robot realized that the animals had begun to create a kind of bond with him, and would occasionally bring him offerings of food, for which of course he couldn't eat, that being a robot of course. But strangely, the robot felt satisfied with his work. He wasn't working for the humans anymore, but he was still serving his purpose, which was simply to help. The four of them for the next few weeks lived together in harmony, helping each other and living in the cool green forest, where the trees would sway at night, occasionally parting their branches to reveal the twinkling stars up above. The animals felt secure, and for some strange reason, so did the robot. One summer evening, while the sun was setting, a few months after they had met, a cool breeze blew up from the valley. Stars twinkling like diamonds were slowly appearing here and there in the night sky as darkness fell. For some reason the animals seemed restless. The three of them all moved up onto the hill to look across at the view, the robot following them. They stared out across the valley, a warm glow from the setting sun lighting up the clouds and the night that would fall. The robot could see a dim light in the distance. He knew the humans were coming. But for the first time since he was terminated from service, he could feel a sense of satisfaction with his life. He would defend and protect his new friends. He was home.